There'll be food and drink and ghosts, and perhaps even a few murders. You're all invited.
Can you think of any specific moments from your childhood where you were watching a movie or TV show that just scared the hell out of you? I'm talking full-on traumatized you have not forgotten to this day. I'm sure most of you can, and I know I definitely can. Greetings everyone, and welcome back to Dunwich Manor. Today I'm going to be talking to you guys about a little show called Truth or Scare. Now Truth or Scare was a children's show that ran on Discovery Channel from 2001 to 2003 for like 3 seasons. It was hosted by Michelle Trachtenberg, who was in a bunch of stuff like playing Dawn in Buffy the Vampire Slayer. She was in the 2006 remake of Black Christmas, and she's in a bunch of other things as well. Actually, I had a really big crush on her when I was little. That is not the main reason I watched Truth or Scare, mostly. The show had a documentary style format where each episode would go over different legends and different ghost stories from different areas. One would be in Ireland, one would be England. The main idea of the show was to kind of listen to these stories and then by the end of it, determine for yourself whether these stories were real or just there to scare you. Now I love this show so much. It was very spooky and creeped me out. Strangely enough, I find spooky and creepy things very comforting. Maybe it's because I watched shows like this when I was little. But with all that being said, there was one episode of the show that messed me up for a long time. It was the single most terrifying thing I'd ever seen at this point. Now, let me also say this was when I was like 7 or 8, so nowadays it's not going to be nearly as scary, and I'm sure it's probably going to be pretty laughable. But I have found the episode on YouTube, which I also got to say, it turns out that a lot of the footage from the show was actually taken from a BBC documentary from the 90s, and luckily that documentary is also on YouTube, so this is going to get kind of confusing. But basically, I took footage from the documentary because that footage is a lot higher quality than the Truth or Scare episode I found on YouTube, so I'll be kind of splicing them together, so some footage will look better than others just because it's taken from the documentary. But it is the same scene. It's just Truth or Scare had Michelle Trachtenberg's narration over it. Again, I don't know if I'm saying her name right, but hopefully I am. But having said all of that, let's go ahead and get into the episode that terrified me.
Boo. Do you believe in ghosts?
So the first story is about Huntington Castle in Ireland, and its history with the magic dudes, the Druids. At this point, the show recounts the story of a guy that says when he was younger, he was sleeping on a couch in the castle. When he woke up and above him, there were 2 old guys staring at him, and then he started floating.
Suddenly, he saw 2 strange faces staring down at him. Then, he says, he felt his body rise, and he floated above the couch.
Boy, if I had 25 cents for every time that happened to me, I'd have 75 cents, which now that I think about it actually might be an issue. So this is a thing that the show did a lot, was like they're trying to scare you. They'd have the actors lean over the camera, kind of looking directly at the camera, almost like a jump scare, but not quite. And you know, back when I was little, it was creepy, but watching it now, it just kind of pisses me off because I'm like, respectfully, back the fuck up and get out of my face. But again, when I was little, it was great. So the next story in the show is a ghost that is a lot less menacing and is in fact helpful instead.
Another time when Samantha was making lunch, she said the blender suddenly turned on.
Now this lady looked just like one of my mom's friends, and I totally thought that my mom's friend was in the show for a few seconds.
But guests of the castle have had the strangest experiences of all. One night, in a bedroom called the Red Room, a couple staying over say they were woken up by a strange white light.
Paddy! Paddy!
It surrounded a man standing by the dresser.
Why the hell are these people so calm? They're in their bed and then a ghost walks in, starts looking through their drawers, and they're just laying there like, damn, that's crazy.
The man turned and walked over to their bed. He put his finger to his lips, softly whispered, "Shh," and disappeared.
So it turns out that this was a really nice and helpful ghost that was trying to help this lady find the deed that proved that she did in fact own the castle. This ghost was actually one of her family members that died a long time ago back in World War I when he was killed in battle. Although the reenactment for this scene really does him dirty because it shows him being alive and like heroic in battle for about 2 seconds before he gets like absolutely domed out of his loafers. Besides that, Godspeed, Mr. Ghost, and thank you so much for coming in clutch for your family. You're a real one. So at this point in the episode, we have 2 stories left. One about a poltergeist terrorizing 2 ladies, and then of course the final story, which is the one that terrified me.
It was a little after midnight when Nancy turned out the light. Soon after that, she heard a noise on the stairs. Was someone coming up? Nancy said it sounded like the person was struggling. She was gripped by fear.
Shit, I'd be scared too if somebody was yoinking their sploinky in my closet.
Then, total chaos. Nancy crossed the room in the dark and found the light switch. As soon as she turned it on, everything went quiet.
Honestly, props to these women for staying so calm. I know in my last one I roasted the people for staying in bed and being calm, but this is one situation where I feel like being calm probably helped. Instead of full-on panicking and jumping out a window, they just sat there and turned on a light. I'm gonna kind of speed over that last story though, because we have gotten to the final story of the episode, which is the most horrific one, the ghost of Lep Castle. It looks like Leap Castle, but she says Lep Castle, so I guess I'm gonna call it that.
There are so many stories of haunted castles in Ireland. Most people can't keep track of them. But some accounts are totally unforgettable. Like in what many say is Ireland's most haunted castle. Lep Castle can be found in County Offaly. It was built in the 1300s. But legend says the hauntings are connected to a horrifying bloody history that began in 1532.
So here we learn of 2 brothers. One is a priest and one is a warrior. And basically when their father dies, they have to decide who the castle is going to go to. And because the warrior brother is a violent idiot, he decides to kill his brother in the actual chapel of the castle. And it therefore gets the name The Bloody Chapel, which is a freaky ass name and it sounds like a place in a Souls game. So because of this crime, the warrior brother is thrown into the castle's oubliette, which is basically this big pit with spikes at the bottom, and you throw them in, and if they didn't get impaled on the spikes and die, they would just die of starvation down there because there was like no way out.
They say terror has a face, and this is it.
So there we hear our first mention of it, which is not Pennywise this time, but instead the Lep Castle Elemental. I mean, even just the way she said it, like, sounded incredibly ominous. That probably messed me up too.
Mildred thinks that it was this seance that released the spirit of a primitive ghost known as it.
Okay, so here's the scariest part of the episode. Again, it's probably gonna look goofy as hell now, but 7-year-old me had nightmares about it for years, so.
Suddenly, she felt a hand on her shoulder. She turned and found herself face to face with it. It was about the size of a sheep, but it had a human face. Its eyes were just deep black holes in its head. And the smell, she said it was unmistakable. The stench of rotting flesh.
So again, looking at it from this perspective, it's kind of like, okay, you know, it's weird and kind of creepy, but it's also like, what the hell am I looking at? When I was little, I can't tell you how horrified I was that I was gonna feel like a hand touching my shoulder. So it got to the point where I would no longer keep my back to an open room or even a hallway. I would always have to have my back against like a wall or something behind me so that nothing could come up behind me and touch my back, because I didn't want to see that thing. And also the BBC version is a lot more gruesome. It shows like the skull with maggots in its eyes, which is disgusting. Even just watching the kids version, oh man, I feel bad for little me. So that was Truth or Scare, the show that traumatized me. I know that was a really brief look at it. I didn't want to go super in depth because honestly, each episode's completely different and there's not exactly a story. It's just more of a documentary. So you can go watch it for yourself on YouTube. The episodes are, I think it has all the episodes on some of the channels, but you know, the quality will be pretty poor, but you'll work with what you got, you know. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed that. If you did, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you all next time. Peace.